From Isaiah chapter 60, verses 1 through 6. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look about you. All assemble have come to you. Your sons come from afar, and your daughters are carried on ahead. Then you will look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth on the seas will be brought to you. To you the riches of the nations will come. Herds of camels will cover your land, young camels of Midian and Ephraim. And all from Sheba will come, bearing gold and incense, and proclaiming the praise of the Lord. And the New Testament lesson is from Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12.
The New Testament lesson is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2. Listen to the Word of God. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we have observed the star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened. Actually, Greek maybe he was troubled. And all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes and Pharisees, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him Bethlehem of Judea, for so it had been written by the prophet. "For you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come the ruler, who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men, and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in the dream not to return to Herod, they left for their country by another way. May God bless the hearing and reading of His word. Let's pray. Lord, open up our eyes and our hearts that through your word proclaimed, we may encounter you, the living word. May we follow you and seek you, that we may know and worship you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, the year is 614 of the Common Era. And at this time, the Persians and Romans had been engaged in fighting for over 700 years, off and on. The Eastern Empire, the Roman Empire, was weakened at this time for a variety of reasons, and the Persians saw their opportunity and invaded Palestine. Now, this is several decades before the rise of Islam, so this is still Christian the eastern part of the empire here is Christian. And when the Persians came in and raided, they destroyed, burned churches, they burned beautiful churches, some of the greatest churches in the empire in Jerusalem. And they came up to the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. Now, the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem is one of the oldest worship sites of Christendom. Matter of fact, Hadrian, the emperor, in the 2nd century, put a pagan temple on the site of where the grotto is, where Jesus was allegedly born, to discourage people from coming there. So, there are a lot of sites in the Holy Land that you could say are probable. A lot of them are they're a nice idea, but probably nothing happened here. But the Church of the Nativity, people had been venerating and remembering the birth of Christ at least from the early part of the 2nd century. So the Church of the Nativity was one of the oldest sites of Christian piety. And so the Persian army came up to the Church of the Nativity, and they were planning on raiding it and burning it down like they had done the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, but they stopped, and they spared the church building. Because on the front of the church building was an icon of 3 Zoroastrian Persian priests, the 3 Magi, and the building was spared. Matter of fact, to this day, you can go to the Church of the Nativity. It is the oldest continuing worshiping site of Christianity in the world. So it was spared in part because of the story of the Magi. Now, this is the Feast of 3 Kings. It's also the Feast of Epiphany, which we celebrate the incarnation, God becoming human. It is a day that's been celebrated. This has probably been celebrated much longer than December 25th. We know Christians were observing the birth of Christ in the late 2nd century on this date. But the Feast of the 3 Kings, first of all, they weren't kings. Okay? We could go through why they became kings, but I'm not going to do that. That's kind of a long, interesting story. And we don't know how many there were. In Matthew's Gospel, it doesn't tell us. 3 probably comes from the fact that they brought 3 gifts. As I mentioned to the kids, in the Eastern Church, in the Syrian Church, there is a tradition where they were 12. And we don't know their names, even though there have been stories and legends that have tried to name them. In the West, they're called Balthazar from Arabia, Melchior from Persia, and Gaspar from India. But there are different Persian names for them than we found in the Eastern Church. And contrary to manger scenes and Christmas pageants, they were not present at the birth of Jesus. The scene in Matthew takes place sometime afterwards. What's also interesting about them, the Magi, is they were probably a combination of astrologers, astronomers, court advisors, mystics, and practicing magicians. Our word magician or magic comes from the Greek word, or the Greek root, magi. And the Magi were not universally held in esteem. In fact, about 20 years after the birth of Jesus, they were banned from the Roman Empire for a while because they were considered charlatans who were just after people's money. Also, in Judaism, in most of Judaism, and in all of Christianity, magicians are condemned. Matter of fact, one of the arch heretics of all Christian history is Simon Magus, Simon the Magi, in the book of Acts. So the Jews, and then the Christians took this on as well, saw Magi as idolaters, practicing the dark arts, if you will. So, from that perspective, if you stop and think about the fact that shepherds in antiquity were considered notorious liars. Matter of fact, a shepherd could not be a witness in court because they were considered unreliable. All right? So, if you build your manger scene, you got a bunch of lying shepherds, a bunch of charlatan magicians, and a child conceived out of wedlock. I think the Divine Comedy is present even at the birth of our salvation. But these Magi represent something really important, and I think it's an important thing for us to think about. I think sometimes we maybe move too quickly from Christmas. Okay, when it comes to the department stores, they start way too soon. Okay, all right. Matter of fact, probably we'll get into my Christmas stuff next week, right? But I think sometimes, as people of faith, we leave Christmas too quickly. I think there was a reason they did 12 days of Christmas. And not just so that they can write a great Shakespearean play. It is important for us to ponder what's happening, and the Magi help us to do that. Now, the interesting thing about the wise man, when we first meet them, they do something that's pretty stupid. All right? I think, in other words, they may be wise in their area of expertise. They know more about astronomy than I do, which is always kind of humbling. That the ancient Egyptians know more about astronomy than I do. Someday I'm going to take a class, astronomy for dummies, right after I take a quantum physics class for dummies as well, which I don't think exists. But I do think it's fascinating. These were brilliant people. They attract the stars. And it's interesting, if you read some of the ancient manuscripts from Babylon in this time period, because they're over there in Babylon and Persia, it's amazing how accurate they were without all computers and all the scientific observation, without telescopes. How we were able to calculate the movement of the stars and planets, at least the ones they could see with the visible eye. But they may have been really smart in the classroom or in the library or looking at the sky, but when it came to politics, they were not very bright. Because they stopped by at Herod, who history is called Herod the Great, to tell him that there was a king born in his backyard. Now, Herod's called the Great because he's one of the great builders of the ancient world. I mean, you can still go to Caesarea on the Mediterranean coast just south of Tel Aviv and see the amazing remnants of his sea city, Caesarea. You can still go out to the Dead Sea area, to the Jordan Valley, and see Masada. Masada was something he built. The ruins of Herodias has been excavated. And of course, his greatest accomplishment of all, which was considered at the time one of the most magnificent sites in all of the ancient world, certainly the eastern part of the Roman Empire, but not the whole world, was his renovation project of the Second Temple, which is often called Herod's Temple. If you go to this day, you can still see the retaining walls of Herod's Temple. That's what you see. The western wall is just the foundation wall for the real walls. Remarkable. It's a remarkable thing. So when it came to greatness, he was really good at building. He was really great at surviving. I mean, he's kind of an ancient version of Forrest Gump, because in his lifetime, as a young man, Pompey conquered Jerusalem. Julius Caesar had a great relationship with his father. Cleopatra wanted to kill him. Mark Antony liked him and then wanted to kill him. And Caesar Augustus thought about killing him, but then became his friend. All right. So if you were Forrest Gump in the first century BC, you could have been Herod. But here's the rub. He was a ruthless, Asiatic dictator who, in his later years, became increasingly paranoid. He had a secret police force to follow around his people. Watch that. That's nothing new. Still happens. At one point, right before he died, he had a bunch of Pharisees killed because they prophesied that he was going to die. He had 300 of his generals killed. He had 3 of his sons executed. And he also killed his favorite wife. I don't know what he did to his least favorite wife, but his favorite wife he killed. So, this idea that he was a ruthless ruler was well known. Now, the wise men may have not known he was paranoid, but you don't usually go to a despotic king and say, hey, guess what? You've got a new king in your backyard. Not the brightest thing. And so there's a certain naivete there that we see. And I think it also shows us the limitation of the brightest and best of humanity. Because how much has happened in the world for well-intentioned discovery, well-intentioned exploration, well-intentioned intellectual pursuits? We learn how to split the atom. And what do? We build bombs that can destroy the world. We create this great new thing called plastic that's so useful, but we fail to realize not only what it does in terms of it doesn't go away, right? It just keeps living on, right? It's still our ocean. It also has a molecular effect on human beings. We go on and on. How our technology, how our knowledge has given us great gifts. Matter of fact, if you go to the early part Several of the Nobel Prize winners for chemistry also used their abilities to create poisonous gas in World War I, both on the French and on the German side. So we have a history of using our technology to better ourselves, to use our knowledge to have great discoveries, and also to create unintended tragic consequences. 3 wise men going to find whatever the star meant contributed to the massacre of innocent children in Bethlehem and surrounding. You would think that we might learn something in the history of humanity, that just knowing something is not enough. But we continue to repeat the same mistake. Wise people doing really stupid and often dangerous and deadly things. But they find Jesus. And when they find Jesus, they worship him. The word homage can mean either the kind of homage you pay to a king, or it can also mean worship. I think probably both are involved. And the whole story of the wise men is full of biblical Old Testament references. The passage in Isaiah that we read earlier is just one of them. But this idea that there would be a light breaking into the world, the star represents that. That the coming of the Messiah would bring a gathering in of the nations. And very early on in the tradition, these wise men were depicted coming from different places from the east. In Matthew's gospel, it's a not so subtle message that the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, is for all people, not just for the people of Israel. And what's interesting, though, the wise men first come by following a sign in nature. It's only through the scriptures that they find out where they're supposed to be. And so this is a very intentional theological work. That natural revelation, our reason, our observations, can lead us to the idea of a God, but to know who God is, you need special revelation. And as we told the kids, the gifts are statements about who this baby is and will be. Gold for a king. Not just a king honored by Jews, but a king honored by pagan priests. He's going to be a universal king. Frankincense. He is to be honored as a deity, to be worshipped. Myrrh. He is immortal, and he will die. From the beginning, his destiny is pointed to. This idea of the Feast of the Incarnation, the 3 kings come together at this point. And that what we have in this baby of Bethlehem is God in the flesh. The king, God, but mortal as you and I, destined for suffering and death. There's a wonderful poem that talks about the incarnation. This is a woman who's really respected as a poet, Denise Labateau. She had a conversion later in life, and this is one of her Christian poems. It's called The Incarnation. It's when we face for a moment the worst our kind can do, and shudder to know the taint in our own selves, that all cracks the mind shell and enters the heart, not to a flower, not to a dolphin, to no innocent form, but to this creaturely, vainly sure it and no other is God. Light. God out of compassion for our ugly failure to evolve, and trust as guest, as brother, the Word. I like this last phrase. God out of compassion for our ugly failure to evolve, and trust as guest, a brother, the Word. In many ways, the incarnation is built precisely on human arrogance to see Herod and King. Okay, right? They may have got it wrong the first time, right? But God tells them. It's funny. You would think by now they would kind of figure it out. This Herod guy, not so good. But it takes a dream for God to make sure they get the point. All right. I knew there's a story of a preacher who preached the same sermon for like 3 months. Children love one another. And his elders finally came to him and said, Reverend, when are you going to preach a different sermon? Because when you start doing the one I've been preaching. So we sometimes need to be reminded. And sometimes God needs to hit us over the head with a club. The Bible is full of people who needed God to hit them over the head with a club. Right? And so the three magi, or however many there were, they get a dream saying, don't go back and see Herod. Okay. So they go home by a different way. There's a great James Taylor song. This is back, I don't know what album it was from. An album I think he put out in the 80s. It's actually a story of the three wise men, and it's called Going Home by a Different Way. And it says, the last verse is, stay clear of royal welcomes, avoid a big to-do. A king who has slaughtered the innocents will not cut a deal for you. All right? And then it says, find another way to go home. The idea that as Christians, we have a clear choice here. And I think it's a political statement as well. The danger of going to bed with power, the danger of making a deal with the devil, is that the devil always gets his or her due. The thing that Jesus comes into the world as a king and a God, but who will die for the sins of the world, from the beginning tells us that we need to go a different way. That God decides that shepherds and magi are the ones who are the first witnesses of the birth of Christ. That should tell us that God thinks about things in a very different way than the world does. And so the challenge, I think, as we go to 2019, is not to make bunches of resolutions, although, it's all right. I'm not against making New Year's resolutions. Okay? And I support breaking them as well, all right? But the fact is, as Christians, we always find our way home by a different way. The way home is not the way of Herod and power. The way home is not left to our own designs. Matter of fact, the way home is not even left to our own wisdom and wits. The way home is through Bethlehem. By acknowledging and bowing and worshiping the one who is our God and Savior, but who is also our brother. And the way home is to recognize our failed evolution, that we need a Savior. And that Savior is not us. The Savior is certainly not the government. The Savior certainly is not our own wits and abilities. The Savior is certainly not the inevitable progress of humanity. Anyone who believes in the inevitable progress of humanity has never read history. It's more like this. It's not a straight line up. We get to go home by a different way, and we find that our home is in God alone. But the good news is home came to us. We're not left at our own designs to wander around looking for our own star or looking within ourselves. But home came to us, born in this baby.